Hey guys, welcome back to Secrets of a Church Girl. I know it's been like 500 years. We're back. I had a baby. Wow. When we last left off, I was pregnant. We finished the season intentionally so that I could go on to my maternity leave, and now I have a 3-year-old. So that went longer than expected. I'm excited to be jumping back in season 2 with a brand new co-host, Allison Cars. Shh, I need a little trigger button that does the clap sounds like an audience. We're excited. We're going to be diving in this season on a plethora of different topics, having different guests. I think we both had a conversation. I don't know, what was it, like a month or two ago? Something like that. And just realize, one, we do both intake long format podcasts, right? Like you watch a lot of podcasts. What are podcasts you watch?
What are the two girls, like the Bible girlies?
Girls Gone Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of those.
Yeah, same. I listen to a lot of that stuff. I listen to all kinds of different random podcasts, but I feel like we both were like on the same page as far as really wanting to put content out that was like Jesus based. And yeah, we're going to talk about church stuff. We're going to talk about Bible stuff. We're going to talk about like our regular life and how integrated Jesus is to just existing.
Yeah.
It's not like these two separate ideas. And Allison is a church girly. She was raised in church. She has 3 siblings. You were raised in Western New York.
Yep.
And she owns a salon. She's a hustler. I'm giving you a resume.
Hire me, please.
Yeah, she's like a woman in the workplace, which is one thing, but she was also raised in church. We do ministry together now. We're actually in the middle of planning a conference, and I recently talked on our other podcast, Billy and I's, called With the Heathers plug. Or no, it's not called With the Heathers. It's called the Billy and Randy Show. Oop. Billy changes up the marketing all the time. I never know what it's called. On the last podcast that we filmed, I talked about my inner healing journey and how I completed it in January, and Allison is actually like right on the cusp of finishing.
Yeah.
Right. So we just have a lot of parallel lines in our life. And so I just thought it'd be really cool if we could sit down. But today's episode, you're actually going to hear a lot of Allison's story. You guys mostly are probably tired of hearing me and my story that I have to tell every time I preach or talk or get behind a podcast mic. But I'm excited because have you ever really sat down and like told your story of just your life and stuff?
No, not really.
Okay, so I like to jump in right at the top. Like, obviously this is Secrets of a Church Girl, and the reason we call it that is for 2 different reasons. Like, the original intent when I got this vision was like, one, Secrets of a Church Girl, like, the secrets of having to be raised in church, which sometimes is not by choice. It's by like your parents took you to church, right? Which is the greatest gift for me that my parents ever did. So it's the secrets of being raised in a church and what it's really like to have to like be raised in those environments and be seen and known all of your life. And so oftentimes, like for me, being raised in church was like, you're always little Randy, because they only ever knew me as little Randy all my whole life. So those secrets of like the things that you feel almost not in a negative way, but in a real way of being raised in church, but also the secrets of being raised in church and then staying in church.
Yeah.
Like, how do you endure when you've probably seen a lot of the church, but you still want to choose the church?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when we get into Allison's story today, we're going to talk about those different things. And then we're going to kick off our like forums being opened again to like drop stories about being raised in the church as we give different topics for the week that will be coming. You'll be able to like fill in information and all of that stuff like that, and tell us your juicy stories so we can tell the secrets of a church girl.
I'm excited for those.
Yeah, I know. I'm so pumped. Those are always the best. Okay. So, tell me, you were raised in church. When did you start attending? Like, what are some of your earliest memories of church? Like, give us some of that background.
Yeah. So I don't ever remember a time not going to church.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say like I was baptized. So I think my parents were already going before I was born, I think.
Okay.
I think my mom had a radical encounter before either my oldest sister was born or like
Right after.
Yeah. So I remember going to church a lot, and we had gone to this one church, and then we had transitioned. A lot of people had left, and my parents started this church the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Like helped, I don't know, they kind of jumped on, like same thing with gospel, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember being there a ton. Like we would go clean the church, and we would, you know, I was homeschooled with their kids, and So that was like I got homeschooled in second grade. So, like I was still little, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And then once that church, the pastor had moved and like things shifted, my parents had left. And then we had kind of like church hop for a long time. We were driving out to like Niagara Falls, which is like, an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would just remember being in church like pretty much like that was normal. Like you go to church on a Sunday.
So you were at a church before the Beacon, which you were at the longest period of time.
Yeah, like that was like our home church. Like that's the only time I really remember being a part of like we would sit with the pastors and like we were raised with their kids. Like I remember having like because everyone knows each other around here. Like you would see a lot of the same faces at church, but like it wasn't like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like more this vibe. I feel like.
Yeah. So do you remember leaving the church that you were at before the Beacon? Do you remember that church at all?
Yeah, I do. It's still a church today. I remember going to kids' church a lot there, but I don't really. I was little, so
Yeah.
like I remember hearing like, oh, a lot of people are leaving.
Did it feel like a church split? Like the vibes of a church split?
Yeah, I think so.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a large majority, like even people that attend our church today, went there, left, went to the Beacon, and then we're just kind of like wandering around for a long time until you guys came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't vibe with the church split vibes.
No. Yeah,
Never.
I think people were hurt, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, then to go to the Beacon and then them move.
Yeah.
And then it fell apart again.
Yeah, I don't really remember I don't really remember that. I don't know the ins and outs because I feel like I don't even know what grade I was in. Like I feel like I was still little.
Were you still being homeschooled when they were transitioning out, or did your mom did she put you back in public school?
Yeah, we went back to public school. I was only homeschooled for 1 year, so.
Oh, okay.
I still remember going to church with them, like even in public school, but I just don't really remember when it all transpired, kind of.
Yeah. So then after the Beacon, which was a great church from everything I hear everybody talk about, where did you guys go, or did you have another home church after the Beacon?
Yeah, so we would go to Niagara Falls.
Okay.
My mom's like cousin, she has a big side that lives out there. A lot of them went to this church. I can't remember what it was called, but it was pretty like Pentecostally, like very like brimstone and fire.
Oh, okay.
Is that the saying?
Yeah. Hellfire, brimstone.
Yeah. It was pretty intense. I remember being scared a lot going to church there. I was like, oh wow, I'm gonna get it today. But we went there for probably like, I don't know, like maybe a year or two. It was a lot. Like it was an hour away. The services were so long, like 2.5 hours.
Oh.
It was like, Holy Spirit led.
Which some people, that's totally normal.
Yeah. So it was just like hours and hours. And I remember like it was an argument to go every Sunday. And then my mom was like, okay, like we'll find somewhere closer. And then we started going to like a Wesleyan church right near me. And then.
Which was probably way more chill.
Way more chill.
Yeah.
I served in kids' church a lot there. I think I wanted to get out of the service a little bit because it's very like you sing 3 songs. There's no worship team. You just watch the screen. There's like words on the screen.
Was there music?
Yeah, but it was like from a speaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes there's church in like I'm going to get this wrong. I think it's a Foursquare church where they have hymn books and you sing, but there's no music and there's nothing. You just sing the songs together. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've been in like a piece of one of those services, but like a choir master goes up and like gives the timing. It's like.
Okay. Actually, my cousin just posted on Instagram about that. Like they're going to one of those churches.
Yeah. And then everybody just starts singing.
Yeah.
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 I didn't know. That's why I was just wondering if that was like that.
No, it was more just like play a Hillsong track and like the lyrics are up there and then it like the colors
words.
like change. And
then, like a karaoke vibe.
So I remember I was in the nursery a lot at that church, and we went there for a while, like probably almost my whole high school like career, I guess.
Were you going every Sunday with your family?
Yeah, my mom pretty much like that was the standard. I would get out of it here and there, but for the most part, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Maybe like towards the end of my senior year, like it was like more relaxed, but I think it was like my mom didn't want to fight with us anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's about the time. And I think they still went there, but I had moved away. And then I did go to church when I lived in Cincinnati as well with my aunt.
Okay. How long were you attending that church there? The same church the whole time you were there?
Yeah, the same church. And when I go back and visit, we go there. It's a really good church. But it was like I would work on Sundays sometimes, so it wasn't super consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long were you in Cincinnati for?
13 months.
Okay.
Like a little over a year.
Cosmo license timeline.
Yeah.
Yep, same. Okay, so then you moved back when did you move back from Cincinnati?
It was like, I want to say August of 2019. Right, because the world shut down 2020.
Yep.
Yeah, I just gotten back, kind of.
Okay.
Yep. And then I didn't go to church.
For how long? From when you got back in August?
Yep, to gospel.
Wow. So that was what, 21?
Yeah.
Because you started going like at the schoolhouse.
Yeah.
So that would have been 21.
Yeah.
A long 2-year little break.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
Bad.
Was it normal though? Did it in the time? Obviously now looking back is very different. But like in the time of not attending every week and like not being in a church, did you feel that like any difference?
Like I remember being like, I really want to go to church. But the guy I was dating was not a Christian. So it was like very like, okay, but you're going to go by yourself. And I was scared to try something new by myself. So, like, when I would visit my parents or, like, go on trips with them, we would go to church then. But it was, like, you know, maybe, like, 3 times that whole 2-year span. So,
yeah.
like, not being in the church, I definitely felt that. Yeah, but I just didn't feel it enough to go, I guess, you know.
Yeah. Well, too, I think, where would you have attended if you had determined to go?
Probably whatever I found online, honestly. Like, closest church near me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
okay, do you think that there were times when you were not going regularly that not just, I think a lot of times people try to say like, I felt guilty from what I had learned, and it's like learned behavior. So because I'm not at church, I feel guilty solely because I've always been told to go to church. Do you think it was that, or you think it like there were moments where you were like, no, I feel convicted, like I should be there with God, not just like I've learned this, so I should be doing this?
Yeah, I feel like it was more like a routine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember being little and, like, loving Jesus. Like, I really remember that. But, like, then after a while, I think it just became, like, you know, that was very big for my mom. So, it's like, it's a Sunday, you go to church. So, I don't really feel like I had a relationship with God much in, like, as I got older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when do you feel like you started to, like, differentiate learned behavior from like actual conviction, not just like what you've been taught all your life, but like now it's real to you relationally?
Yeah, I would say probably last, like, I want to say like last January.
What are we in?
So 2024, so 2023. I think like at the end of the year 2022. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I was like starting to, you know, go to church more regularly, and I was like, okay, like I feel, you know, every time I go to church I'd just be crying, and then I'm like, okay, like something's clearly happening.
Yeah.
And then I think, you know, it was like I would consistently go even when I was uncomfortable. And then I just finally was like, okay, either I'm doing this or I'm not. Like, I'm going to do it full force or I'm not going to do it at all, because, like, I've done my whole life just, like, you know, you do the Sunday thing, then you go out on Friday and Saturday night. Or, like, not my whole life, but, like, you know, for years I did that. And it's like, okay, well, you can keep doing that or you can, you know, jump in. So.
Do you think that when you finally jumped in, like the little Allison that like loved Jesus that you just talked about and who you were at that time in 2020, like 2020, top of 2023, like everything that had existed in between then, like, almost got like unleashed, like, oh, I had learned behavior where I was just told to go to church and it was routine, and I had this and I had that, but like the conviction and love that she had when she was, what, how old are you, 6 or 7 years old, was like, I don't know, carried through or like brought to life again. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely opened something back up that was closed for a long time. Very like, I remember like feeling like I knew the Holy Spirit my whole life. Like I feel like if like we were at a church, like I know that feeling. I don't know if feeling's the right word because I feel like people get like funny.
Well, you know him as a person.
Yeah, so like I feel like there were things that I was very aware of. And then now more than ever, I think it's just like, I think you guys preach about that a lot, like having a relationship with Jesus. So I think that that's like new to me again almost. But I do feel like I remembered like a lot of that in my upbringing. And I also went to a Christian school. I forgot to say that. But so like the first like 4 years of my life, like we went to church at school, and like my whole entire curriculum pretty much was like Jesus. So like I knew a lot about Jesus. We would pray all the time, like, you know, so I feel like it's just like I don't want to say routine, but like there is that constant walk that I feel like even now it's like without that, like you kind of like, I don't want to say forget, but it's like things like slip because you're not constantly like renewing, you know? So I think like even more so now it's like, okay, like, you know, if I'm feeling funny, it's like, have you even prayed today? Or like, you know what I mean? So I think that stuff has been like eye-opening. Yeah. Like kind of remembering from like being a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's almost like everything you learned when you were younger still, it didn't go away. No. Like even when you know, we're going to different churches, and which I feel like one of the things that I want to do for Addie is give her a long-term attendance in one spiritual family. Like that's a goal for me, is to like have her in a spiritual family for a long period of time. But like even as you went to different locations and different churches and different seasons of life where you were saying like towards the end of your senior year you weren't really going, and you were serving to get out of the church experience, and like you were going out on Fridays and Saturdays, or weekends were like different than Sundays looked. Like even as all that happened, like the conviction of the Holy Spirit never left you. So like, and I think that's what I'm saying is like a lot of people like to say like, oh, this is just what I was told to do, so of course I feel guilty. No. There's difference between feeling guilty and feeling convicted. Yeah. I feel like. Yeah. Yeah. Guilty is like, I need to fix this. Like, I shouldn't be doing this. I feel like conviction is like, you're better than this. You know your value. You know that there's better things to do with your life. Like, I feel like the voice is different. Yeah. Like, guilt is like very much like knocked down, like beats up. Yeah. Conviction is like, but you have a purpose. Yeah. And it's like, dang. Yeah. Yeah. So what were some of those experiences like when, cause like, okay, it would hit you. Like, I think the reason that you know, not you, but just like we have emotional responses when we go into church is because we can't fight the conviction anymore.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to say feel bad, but it's like you said, like I knew the way I was living was not what I was supposed to be doing. Yeah. And not by any standard. Like I wasn't out being a bad person, but it was like, I know what God said about me. And like, it doesn't matter. Cause like you said, like I was raised like that. So it's like, I've been told the same thing since I could hear, you know what I mean? Like now. Wow. So it's like, I know that what I'm doing is like, and for me too, I think it was like a time thing. It was like, it wasn't going to stop. It was just like, how far am I going to like, am I just going to stop coming to church? Cause I feel that, you know? So I think
like the conviction was going to keep you away.
Yeah. Like, is it, and I think there was a period of like, I started going to the schoolhouse and then I was like, oh,
this is too real for me.
Yeah. So it was like, okay. And then it was like, when I started going back again, it was like, and it's funny because like you started working at the salon, like in the midst.
God was like, hold on, let me just get all this stuff in order really quick. Hold on.
Like, let me get that girl in there to get her in there. Yeah, but you had started working at the salon kind of like in the midst of me like stopping going to gospel. Like I was like really overwhelmed. That was my excuse. I was really overwhelmed opening the salon. So then I, you know, whatever. But yeah, I think it was like, I know. And then it was like every single time I went to church, like I felt like I was faced with the exact same question. Like, what are you going to choose? And I knew what choosing meant. Yeah. It meant breaking up with my boyfriend. It meant changing my whole entire life. Yeah. And like that was the cost. Yeah. And so it was like,
count the cost, baby.
Yeah. Every single week I would be crying because it was like,
you were going to mourn what was.
Yeah.
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 That's powerful.
Yeah.
So what are some things you really felt like when that shift happened? Cause I feel like it's pretty incredible because I feel like I was able to watch like your life kind of just like morph into like what it is today and what it's, you know, continuing to become. But like, obviously at that point too, like when I started working at the salon, you're kind of in this in between of coming back and forth. Like I only saw from a distance. Now I have a front row seat, but I didn't have a front row seat then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that you started to like prune off of your life that needed to go in order for you to really, and when she says count the cost, like there's a cost to pay. Like Jesus paid a cost, and of course he paid it in full. So we don't have a debt to pay. We're not paying off a debt. What we're doing is we're counting the cost in which we get to respond to the sacrifice that he made. Yeah. So I don't want people to hear this and be like, oh, well, I don't have to pay anything because Jesus paid it all. He did pay it all. But in the life he calls us to, there is a cost to count. Like I want that all the stuff that he thinks gets in the way of him and I'll get rid of it all. Yeah. And so I think as we talk about that, it's like that's the reality is like I want nothing withholding Jesus's communication to me, and not because he'll withhold it, but because my own actions will cause a wedge and that separates us, right? And so what are some of the like practical real things that you were like, okay, this needs to go? That were, I guess, made clear in the beginning.
Yeah, like I said, I felt like I knew I had to break up with my boyfriend. I knew I couldn't be going out on the
weekend. How did you know you needed to break up with your boyfriend?
I feel like that's been a constant thing, like throughout, like, you know, church hopping and all that stuff. Like I said, like I had a boyfriend in high school, and it's like, if I wanted to do this, I knew he was going to be part of it. So it was like, same thing, like both of the guys I had dated long term, every time I went to church, that was the thing I felt most convicted about. Is like who I was dating. Yeah. Because I feel like I knew from like, you know, like you kind of know like, oh, I want, you know, a Christian dad for my kids. Not even Christian, like somebody that loves Jesus to raise my kids. Yeah, there you go. And so it's like, I think for a long time I was like, whatever, like eventually. But it's like, if you're getting serious with someone, where is that part? Yeah. You know?
Well, then you expect them to be something, hopefully, in the future that they clearly don't want anything to do with, which it doesn't mean that God can't change somebody, transform somebody, anything like that, but contingent based on the fact that I build my future on hopefully you're different.
Yeah. And so I think that was like a constant thing for me. And then too, it was like the part that it was like I had my high school boyfriend and I had broken up, and then I got myself in the same situation again. Like, and the other guy, you know, he would come to church with me, but I was like, I remember like having a conversation, like, you don't feel anything when you go, like, you don't feel like you don't want to do this. Like, and that's when the breaking point happened, because it was like, okay, like I'm ready to do this finally for myself and my, like, I was making the decision. It wasn't just a routine anymore. It wasn't just your mom told you to go to church on Sunday. Like I wanted to do this. So I think there was like, okay, clearly you're not there. And it's not fair for me to hold you to the standard of something you don't even believe in yet. Yeah. And so, you know, and that's another thing is like morals were off. Like I have my morals because I was raised in the church. Like if you don't have those same morals, like it's going to be hard to continue life with you. So yeah, it was just, that was definitely one. Yeah, I was like, okay, I can't keep going out. Yeah. You know, like I feel like just.
Did it change? Like not like, did you have a craving to do that, or were you just like, I got an ick? Like, this is not where I want to be anymore.
I think I did the back and forth. Like I did, you know, like the Saturday night and then Sunday morning go to church, like to kind of feel better, like almost.
Yeah, that's real.
And I think, you know, I wasn't like a heavy drinker, or I didn't do drugs or anything like that. But like, I think it was like, I liked the attention. Like I liked to go out and like, I was seeking something. And it's like, well, what was I seeking and why was I doing that? And was I being fulfilled by that? No, because you wake up the next day like, oh, I'm so tired. Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
you got to go get it again.
Yeah. And it was like, how long are we going to do this? Like, yeah. And also too, I think there was a moment when I feel like I was like, okay, like definitely, I would say this is like before I feel like I had like an encounter with Jesus, but like there was like a fight. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I just opened a business and like there was a video of the fight and like I was in it. I wasn't in the fight, but like
you were in the background
around it. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I felt so embarrassed. Like,
Yeah.
what? And then I was like, okay, no more. And that was the last time I ever went out.
Yeah.
So
That's so wild.
yeah.
Well, too, I think, and you've said this multiple times to me, but like you've never been a drinker, but even more so now, there's like a different kind of conviction for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, alcoholism runs in my family too. It's like, what am I doing that for?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I do that? And I feel like it's never been my MO when I go out. Like, I never needed to drink. So I'm like, what is the point of that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
No, I think too, like we, in Billy's family, like a lot of addiction runs in his family. So it's like, and I don't say runs in his family, like accepting it as ours, but it's something that is reoccurring. So it's never been a normal in our life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was gifted a bottle of wine and I've probably had it for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And it just sits there and people are like, well, do you want to have? Not really. Like there's no enjoyment. Again, if you drink, I don't think, Bible does not talk anything against having a glass of wine rather than being drunk.
Yeah.
And not being sober minded. So I feel like there's a big difference there. But okay, what else? What are some things you feel like you had to like just like change that? Maybe they were a part of your routine, maybe they were a part of the way you presented yourself. I don't know, anything that just came to mind when you really started. And again, this wasn't because you had to clean your life up. It was because you loved Jesus to a measure that you've never loved him before, and there was fruit there.
Yeah.
What were those? I guess what was that stuff?
Yeah, that's like funny you say that, because I feel like that was like always on the brink of like this. Like it was like, I'll come to Jesus when I'm clean. Like I remember thinking that, like, once I get it together, I'll come. Like I'll party for a little bit, then when I'm ready to settle down, like then I'll come. And it's like, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like when I talk to people that are like on the fence, I'm like, like I feel like Billy said it recently, or maybe you said it, like, Jesus doesn't want you clean, like he just wants you. And like that was so, like, I don't know, revolutionary almost, because I was like, oh, okay. So I think another thing was like just definitely being more modest. Like I said, I was looking for some sort of attention that I wasn't getting, whether that was the way I dressed, the way I acted. So I felt like convicted in that area.
Did you do a closet clean out? I remember doing that.
I have done multiple scents. Like I feel like there's like pieces like, I'm like, oh, maybe I could wear this way, or like I'm like, okay, no, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
I think I still am working on that. Like I feel like, yeah. Not like I don't feel convicted. Like I definitely do feel convicted in some areas, but I'm definitely working on that. Like I feel like I like to be stylish and I like to keep up with the trends. So I feel like I like struggle with certain things.
Yeah. Well, I feel like modesty doesn't mean boring.
No, definitely not. And I feel like I've been able to like, it's just navigating. It's still new, I feel like.
Yeah.
So yeah, like even like shirts, like I don't necessarily think they're immodest, but the way they look on me, they are.
Yeah.
So I think like kind of like differentiating that. And
well, I think it's every time we go in the mirror, it's like Holy Spirit. And it sounds like, oh, so over spiritual. But like I think when you really fall in love with Jesus, there's no separating. It's not like, oh, this is super spiritual and this is not. It's like, I am in relationship with him. So
yeah,
there's not an on and off switch.
Yeah.
But I think there is a moment where I've started to learn, like, if I have to ask myself, like, is this appropriate? It's probably not.
Yeah.
Because if I feel that, then it's not. But if it is, then I won't. 9 times out of 10, I rarely will feel that. But like I feel like I dress like really modestly, especially like in just my regular, not just like, oh, on Sunday, but like in a regular day-to-day life, that I'm constantly like, if there's something I go like, is this okay to wear? Then I'm not going to wear it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that simplifies it. And I think too, like as I've learned with the fashion thing, like I've had to ask myself like over and over, like we've been trusted with the level of influence, even starting a podcast and jumping on, like we don't realize it. And I didn't realize this, but like so many people are listening that like I never thought would listen.
Yeah.
Never, ever. So, hey, if that's you and you're just unexpectedly listening to a church girl podcast, like I never, ever, like people that have reached out to me that were like, oh, I just listened to your podcast. I thought it was really good. And I haven't talked to them in like 10 years.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's Jesus entrusting us with the platform that like, I always want to be mindful in like in the way that I present myself in every realm of my life. Like I want people to inspect my life and to live above reproach, which is what Jesus says, to like live above being able to be talked about live above being able to have mention of your name. Like if you want to say something about me, you're going to have to you're going to have to dig and probably make it up, because I'm not trying to live perfectly, but I'm trying to live so in line with Jesus that if you say something, it's like, she annoyingly confronts me with stuff that I don't want to hear.
Yeah.
I would go great. Like, cool.
Yeah.
Not like, you know what I mean? And so like, I feel like with the modest piece, it does take a while to figure out, one, your own style as an individual, because we're also like I'm gonna still claim it, we're in our 20s. Yeah. So like there is a part of like discovering who you are as a woman, who you are as like who Jesus has designed you to be, that we're still trying to grasp that in like the early ages of our life. But I also think, you know, on the backside of that, I don't think that Jesus would ever have us discover something that he didn't intend to become a model in the life in which he's assigned us to. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I remember like, Billy and I got married when I was like 21-ish. And so like my crazy years were like 17, 18, 19. Mm-hmm. And I remember like when we got married, or like we're about to get married and I was moving from my mom's house, because I lived with my mom until like I moved in with Billy. Yeah. And when I did that, I remember doing a closet clean out and like getting rid of like all the shirts that were like this big. Yeah. Yeah. And not because I had to, but I was just really like, okay, what am I looking for? Yeah. And I think that 90% of the things we do outside of Jesus is a search. Yeah. We're looking for something, you know, which of your core longings are you looking for? Yeah. But it's like, we're looking for significance. We're looking for attention. We're looking for what does that give you? Significance. Right. You know what I mean? You're looking for belonging. So I dress this way in order to belong to something. Like and I think that challenges, I don't know, everything that you've ever received from. I think Jesus wants to strip the stuff that fills you so that he can be the only thing that fills you. Yeah, yeah. And so that's the cost. Is like, I want to lay down everything that has brought me anything, any sense of sustainment. I only want to be sustained by Jesus. Yeah. And so anything that sustains me outside of there, I don't really want it anymore unless he wills it. Yeah. You know? Okay, so you're talking about the relationship, which was probably in some measures unhealthy or dysfunctional or whatever. You talked about your modesty, just the way you present yourself. And it's funny because you said not even just in like what you dress, but also how you present yourself, probably in language and the way in what you talk about, like that changes too. Yeah, I think swearing was a big thing. Still is. Like, I still definitely catch myself here and there and I'm like, oh God. And then I feel like, which is so real. Yeah, I feel like I just, like, what was important to me, I guess, too, like, I obviously see people every, like, my clients come every 2 to 3 weeks, and it was like, I felt like a lot of times, like, I had a good story for them, like, this happened, or this happened, or, like, entertainment. It was like the entertainment, so I was like, dang, like, I'm really about to be so boring. Like, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I read my Bible all week. Yeah. Not that that's boring, but like that's how I felt. So it was like when I don't have a juicy story for everyone, and like when I don't have something funny to say, like, who am I? Yeah. Or like, are these people not going to come to me because I'm boring? Or like, so I think that was like, and I think it's funny because like I can see like where a lot of friendships changed. And it was like, if I wasn't being chaotic, if I wasn't like the funny friend or the friend that would say something outrageous, like, then it was like, okay, like, we're not that we're not friends, but it's like, it was only sustained by my. Yeah. And so I think that was like kind of a shift for me. And I think I still struggle with that sometimes. Like, sometimes I want to say something outrageous and funny, and I'm like, okay, but is that like appropriate? Yeah. So I think, but I will say, like, nothing changed like that drastically. Jesus just lassoed the tongue in. Yeah, like, it was like, okay, I don't have something outrageous to say, but like that gives other people space to talk, or like, trying to be like more. It gives substance. Yeah, like, yeah. Like, it really gives substance. Like those friends you talk about the same 5 things, and it's like, okay, or the same 5 people. Yeah. 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 It's so crazy when you cut, like, people think you're crazy because you're reading your Bible every day, but like me, like throwing half of my body out with a car, like undressed, is not crazy, but me reading my Bible is crazy, which is just hilarious. But I feel like when you really have a encounter with Jesus, one, you can't help but it affect like the other areas of your life. But I think also it tells you like what were any relationships actually built on.
Yeah.
And some relationships are only sustained by mutual suffering or mutual discomfort or mutual stress.
Yeah.
Like we only connect when we can like vent about our stress with each other.
Yeah.
And like after a while, you're just kind of like, I think because you have a real encounter with Jesus, you're like, yeah, this is overwhelming, but also like, we're going to be good. Like God's going to be faithful. He says like cast his cares on him, like for he loves us. I don't know. I want to use that one. Yeah. And people there's a discomfort when misery no longer has its company. Isn't
it weird though? It's like you want to be mutual discomfort, but not discomfort for anything healthy or good, just discomfort for like
the same old stale stuff.
Yeah. And like, I feel like people like, I feel like it's given me a little bit like of room like to challenge people, because it's like people will say that I'm so sick of the same old, same old. It's like, you're the one doing the same old, same old. Like, did you forget? Like, so I think it's like, you know, I feel like I try to be like, I think I needed grace a lot. I still do. We all do, right? But like in the beginning, like I was like a fragile little baby. Like, you know what I mean? You said the one wrong thing and I was running for the hills. So I think like I try to be like kind, but it's also like, yeah, you can't. You don't just get to say like, oh, you're sick of this and never do anything different. Like, what?
Yeah, you're sick of this, but you're making yourself sick.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's interesting. And I think too, like, I think there are a lot of people, not just in the church, but in life in general, that will subscribe to Jesus as a, like, you know, it's like he's just a click of a button or like a check mark on a Sunday. And Billy and I were having this conversation too. Like we're like, people want to think that we're of deep significance to them, but really we're just a part of your Sunday. Like it's not us that you're subscribing to. It's not us that you're committing to. You're committing to Jesus, right? Yeah. And even people outside of the church that, you know, subscribe to Jesus as a person or whatever. But there is a reality that like, I think the patterns of our own life really start to show when people around us start to change. Like, think about this, like you get enough healthy people around you and you can start to see the patterns of your own dysfunction, because they're like, it's like a mirror. It's like mirrors are all around you. And I feel like that, like, that's why I think there's such a mandate on getting people through healing, some sort of healing, or where they deal with all their stuff and they're confronted with truth. I think there's such a mandate because then there's more mirrors out there to show people what their lives actually look like. Yeah. Like, I know this, like my older sister went through some healing stuff. I went through some healing stuff. My little sister wants to do it, you know, all that stuff. And so guess what my mom's going to have around her? Yeah. A bunch of mirrors to show her all of the blind spots. No matter where she looks, we're all going to be saying the same stuff. And for a while, we all did go through different, like a sort of like therapy when we were dealing with my parents' divorce. And we were all hearing the same thing. And it really wasn't like sticking in my mom's brain. For whatever reason, her own growth, her own ability to let go of things, like whatever. But we all started sounding exactly the same. Yeah. Like when the same issue or the same, and it was like, it would be like joking comments about my dad or joking comments about a situation or a person or a thing. And we would all like have the same, like almost like pre-programmed response to that. Like, that's not healthy. If you have a feeling like that, you need to go talk to somebody. That's unhealthy. If you have a feeling like that, you need to go talk to somebody. Don't talk to us about it. You want to vent to us, but that's not a healthy place to be. And so it was like this reoccurring thing. And then the patterns, she started to see her own patterns because there were enough healthy people around her. And I feel like, even in the opposite, when the person in the middle is healthy and everybody around them is healthy, that's even almost a little bit more overwhelming, because now you feel like you're having to like say the same thing to everybody around you, and nobody else is nobody else is reciprocating the same response you need when you find yourself in a moment of weakness. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know if you felt that like through inner healing, but like I know at the top of mine, I would like say like, oh, well, I think you need to process that or grieve that, or like I'll hold space for that. And people thought I was crazy, like saying the same thing over and over again. But I feel like in the transformation, because I think following Jesus is one thing, but being transformed by Jesus is another thing. Yeah. Like you can follow something for a long time and never change.
Yeah.
But like being willing to submit to the transformation of Jesus, I feel like that's a whole nother experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think when we start to see like transformation, then I think then we'll start to see like actual change in the local church or in our own worlds or whatever.
Well, like you said, like I feel like you start using that verbiage almost, and not that the verbiage is a change, but it's like something has changed. And I think too, like growing up in church, it's like it's the same thing you've heard all your life. Like the gospel doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that verbiage, like maybe it would be different for someone that has never heard about Jesus and then had a radical transformation in their 20s. Maybe their verbiage would change right away. But like I think it's like I've heard all the things, not all of them, but you know what I mean? Like you hear the same thing. So then it's like now doing the inner healing work, it's like I catch myself. Like I said yesterday on the plane to my friend, I was like, oh, that's a dysfunctional behavior. And she's like, and I'm like, oh yeah. So, you know, and then it's
let me open my book to you to page 187.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, and like you said, like the core longings, like every time, you know, even like with interactions with people where I'm like, what the heck was that? Like, what are they doing? What are they looking for? And now it's like, okay, seeking love. Okay, seeking belonging, you know, because it's like, I feel like it has changed me a lot in just a short amount of time. So it's like, you can't help but talk about it or like tell other people, like, you deserve this too, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, I think it's powerful. And I think it's such a good, I think stopping point too in this story, which is really, you're just caught up. Like we're caught up to where you're at now. Like, yeah, you were raised in church. You had all these different life experiences and relationships changed and everything. Like there is a cost to count. But I think at the end of it, like I think there's always another step. Even if you were raised in church your whole life, even if you've always known Jesus, he's never short of a next step.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, wherever you're watching, if you just feel like maybe you've been in and out of church, maybe you had pieces and experiences of church, or you've never experienced church, but you know Allison or you know myself from a different place, and this was like refreshing. There's always a next step for you. That doesn't mean that you have to like jump in church, be here every week, do this, do that, do this, and there's all these laundry lists of things. But there is a next step that is palatable, I think, for everybody in every stage of life.
Yeah.
And so, we're excited. We have like many more things to divulge and like pick apart and just talk through as a bunch of girlies. And so we don't know how often, but I think we'll be having episodes about every week once they launch. So subscribe, follow us. What's your socials? What are your socials?
I have to look.
Okay, find them. Mine on Instagram is Randy is Blessed, and then I think everywhere else is just Randy Heather, RANDIE.
Mine is ALLKARCZ 22 on Instagram.
Okay.
And then my TikTok is AG something like that.
She's
a fun or something.
She's a fun TikToker to follow. I will say that. Follow us. We'll be posting different clips and stuff like that from all the upcoming episodes. Yeah. So thanks for watching the first episode of season 2, Secrets of a Church Girl.